This is a battle between the Legend, aka the Legend, commanding the Alamans, versus the Visigoths, commanded by Assesor. Dramatic matchup, and I asked people to send me replays. Don't know if that's why he sent the replay, but thanks anyway. I think it's a lot of fun watching games, and I also think it's a lot of fun having not having to play Attila too much. So he has the Alamans, 2 noble Germanic horse on each flank, Knodemar's raiders, very dangerous skirmish cavalry unit. Then he has Knodemar's entourage, another great general's option, in my opinion one of the best general options in the game. Then you have the bejazzled nobles. We have 2 bejazzled nobles, 1 on each flank, and the center, 4 noble Germanics. Well, actually 2 noble Germanics, 2 noble Germanics, and 1 protectore defensore. So this is a peculiar army here, because none of these units have precursors. They are all very sturdy, high hit point, high armor. There are, let's see, 9 sword units on the field. Don't see that too often. Then we have 4 Germanic hurlers and 1 Germanic archer. Interesting. For Assessor here, we have 4 Germanic archers, 3 noble Germanic swords. Then we have 3 Thracian warriors. In the center, we have 2 Thracian warriors in the center, 2 on each flank, so a sort of a center consisting of 6 Thracian warriors. We have a total of 4 noble Germanic horse, 2 Germanic lancers, and 1 Germanic noble. This is a very patch 1 army, with the dominance of noble Germanic horse. Well, if it was a patch 1 army, they would just be Germanic horse, and they would be great. But so this is sort of a patch 2 army, I guess, with the Germanic archers, the focus on melee cavalry and shock infantry. However, I mean, the Thracian warriors are going to do a good job on the charge against all of these units, really. The Bejeweled nobles and shield wall can hold up to the charge of the Thracian. Oh, there's Gothic warband here, so 1 Gothic warband on each flank. Yeah, 1 Gothic warband on each flank. So there are actually 3 Gothic warbands and 1 Thracian oathstone. So I messed up his army completely. Let's see. He has 3 noble Germanic swords. Then he has a Gothic warband on each flank, Thracian warriors, Thracian oathstone, Gothic warband, Thracian warriors. Quite a few precursor wielding units. Then he went for the cheap Germanic noble general, pushing up his Germanic archers here, potentially to get some shots off, but these hurlers are going to do a good job, either by just eating the arrow fire from these Germanic archers, or doing damage to them. So pushing them away with noble Germanics isn't the worst idea, because these hurlers are going to do a lot of damage very quickly to Germanic archers. We should see it start happening now. Nope, they were pushed away. So the Germanics are about to be in range of these noble Germanic horse, and they will start firing. So doing this early hit point damage, very useful. Although you probably won't see too many kills, getting that damage in early on, basically for free, is great. So I think we see heavy shot being used here. Or maybe not, maybe just standard precision. The noble Germanic swords charging into noble Germanic swords. Bit of a weird formation. And moving off towards the flanks here, refusing this flank and then focusing on this flank. See how that works for him. Going very wide. These Knodomars running around. I guess they want to be in the rear at some point to go for rear charges. Germanic archers are focusing on these Germanic lancers, which they will do a lot of damage to. There are quite a few vulnerable units here. I mean, this army isn't too vulnerable against missiles, but all of these Gothic warbands, the Thracian warriors and Thracian oathstones in particular, are going to be Very, very vulnerable to the missiles of the Alamans. And you can see the Germanic hurlers already causing significant casualties here to Gothic Warband. Also on Germanic archers. But these Noble Germanics are in shield wall here, so they're going to destroy the Noble Germanics that are not in shield wall. They find themselves alone though, so when these Noble Germanic swords move in shield wall, the Noble Germanic swords here should just die, but they've traded very well against this Noble Germanic sword, and they've pushed back some skirmishers, so they have been useful at this point. Another Noble Germanic sword being pushed up. They are slightly expensive to be used as throwaway units. You need them to do something at least, but this unit definitely has done that something. Germanic Lancers starting to take a few casualties. Still just moving away from the flanks. These Germanic hurlers are now firing at this Noble Germanic sword. I wonder, yeah, firing into this blob is the better option, because it's going to slow down all of these units, and it's going to do significant damage. Slings are not the most accurate weapons, so whenever you can hit several units like this, it's great for the slings. And over here as well, these Germanic hurlers are allowed to do their thing, and the Thracian warriors and Thracian Oathsworn are taking damage. Using Bedazzled Nobles and Shield Wall here as a deterrent for the Thracian warriors. Thracian warriors are going to get a good flanking charge here, followed up by Germanic Lancers, but let's see, the Germanic Lancers stop the charge of the Thracian warriors somewhat, and they sort of pass through without doing too much damage because of their because they attacked in the flank. So flanking charges not as effective as I'd like them to be because of that reason alone. So the Germanic Lancers weren't able to do too much, took a few casualties. Let's see here if there's the response to this charge. Yep. Nope, pulling away, pulling back in. No time to disengage. And now there's no infantry support here. The Gothic Warband is going to rush in, do a lot of damage to these Noble Germanics, and in shield wall these Bejeweled Nobles are not going to be able to make it there in time. So, bit of a blob developing in the center here. Since there are shield wall units, they are going to do well against Thracian warriors, and even a decent job against the Thracian Oathsworns. 80 kills already on the Bejeweled Nobles. And over here, just too much damage being caused by the skirmishers of the Alamans. Now, Knodomor's Entourage could go in and wreck Gothic Warband. These Noble Germanic horse have taken a lot of casualties. They are taking fire, but very nicely done in pulling out the Noble Germanic against Knodomor's Entourage. So Knodomor's Entourage is actually going to be able to get the charge here. So good micro there, sending them in against the Noble Germanics and here against the Gothic Warband. The Germanic Lancers getting another sort of flanking charge that will reduce the effectiveness, and now they are getting trapped in this blob. But there's really only this Bejeweled Noble and Knodomor's Entourage in the center here, so these units need to make it there very, very quickly so the general of the Alamans don't just die. Protectores Defectores being used against the Gothic Warband here. And the Protectores are going to die rapidly. But there are these shield wall units holding out in the center. Here we have a Bejeweled Noble holding off a Thracian Oathsworn and a Noble Germanic sword being fired on. So the Thracian Oathsworns are going to get the worst of that engagement. Another Noble Germanic charge into the blob. But now this blob has turned around because there are the support for the Alamans arrived in time. The general was saved, Knodomor's Entourage, and now he's getting a lot of kills on these cavalry units. Still quite a lot of ammunition left, but you can see the Bejeweled Nobles in shield wall do a great... I don't know if these are in shield wall. I don't think they... Well, yeah, they're in shield wall. They are going to kill a lot of enemy infantry, and they used to not have shield wall, which made them of somewhat questionable utility, but since they have shield wall, they are a great essential tanking unit. Still will die in droves to cavalry charges. Now the Alamans are starting to hem in and surround the Visigoths very nicely here. Knodemar's still alive. Knodemar's Raiders still alive. They haven't done much, but as a late game unit they can be devastating. Both because of their rapid advance, because of their missiles, and because they are heavy, so they will do a lot of damage to infantry. This Germanic Lancer is going to get the kills.
The men are broken and running for their lives.
Great charge into the center blob. Oh, those kills. Noble Germanic swords moving up, slowly advancing in shield wall. And here comes the great utility of Knodemar's Raiders. Yeah, just almost 100 kills on the charge there. So the Visigoths are being slowly ground down. Even in this engagement, Knodemar's Raiders, they're not going to do too poor of a job against Noble Germanics. They can at least hold out for some time. But the second unit of Noble Germanics, that's going to be hard to deal with here. And firing into the blob, this is a decent blob to be firing into. More enemy units than friendlies. Noble Germanic Horse gets charge speed before it gets hit. Hits the Noble Germanic Horse here. And Knodemar's... Oh, that was a Germanic Lancer there. It's probably going to get 200 kills now. There we go. 220. Let's see if it hits 230. Yeah, it's going to hit 230 kills here in this blob. Knodemar's Raiders still holding out. And the Visigoths just get destroyed by these charges and by the heavy infantry of the Alamans. The Visigoths a bit more of a glass cannon than the Alamans, because they have a lot of high charge units, but in terms of staying power, the Alamans just have superior staying power, and all across the battlefield Visigoths are wavering, routing. So let's just fast forward here and watch the carnage end. One Noble Germanic Horse left on the field. Knodemar's entourage still alive. And looking at the kills here, yeah, these Knodemar's and the Germanic Lancers do a great job. 109 kills on Knodemar's entourage. For the Visigoths, the infantry does a decent job. The skirmishers didn't perform. Thracian Oath Swords do a good job, but the cavalry didn't really perform too well against all of this Alaman infantry. And the Germanic hurlers, I think this sort of highlights why Germanic hurlers have taken prominence over the Germanic archers. Do more damage quicker. The engagements usually start pretty fast in Attila, so being able to slow down enemy units and do a lot of damage to high value targets quickly is very important. And although you have the range with the Germanic archers, it takes much more time to do damage with them. So AK the legend wins out with a very sword heavy Alaman build against another Germanic faction, a Visigoth build that had a substantial amount of infantry as well, less tanky, and there were really only 6 cavalry units for each player, and one of them being the dual purpose Knodemar's Raiders, one of them being the general's Knodemar's entourage. So the Alamans, when they have shield wall on these bejeweled nobles, it makes them a much more dangerous opponent. And the Visigoths can absolutely do it, but these Gothic warbands and Thracians are not going to like fighting units in shield wall. So thanks to AK the Legend for sending that battle. If you have any battles you would like me to comment on and upload, just send me an email, and you can find the link to you can find my address in the about section on my page, but it's maximusjuniusbrutus@gmail.com. Strength and honor.